A millionaire leaves his fiancée in the past, but years later, seeing her with 4 children, he is completely shocked. What happens when the past comes back to haunt him in an unexpected way? For Michael Bennett, this question will become a terrifying and thrilling reality. After years in search of success and recognition, he returns to Vermont, where he left behind a life and a love. However, what he finds may change everything he thought he knew about happiness and regret. Emily Davis has always been a strong and resilient woman. Since college days, her heart belonged to Michael, but everything fell apart when he abandoned her without explanation. Pregnant and alone, she had to pick up the pieces of her life and reinvent herself. Now at 35, she is the mother of 4 children and an art teacher at a small school in Vermont. Her home, though modest, is filled with love and creativity, where her children are her reason for living and her greatest source of joy. Emily's life is challenging, marked by the daily struggle of being a single mother. She works hard to balance her job and the various needs of Jack, Lily, Ethan, and Chloe, each bringing their own joys and challenges. The unconditional support of her best friend Jessica has always kept her strong, but the pain of abandonment still echoes in her heart, although she is determined not to let it define her. The conflict intensifies when Michael returns to Vermont. He arrives with a new weight on his shoulders, seeking to resolve a crisis in the family business. But upon reuniting with Emily at a school meeting, he is confronted with the reality that she has built a new life without him. The shock is profound, as he realizes she is the mother of 4 children, and the physical similarities between him and the kids make him question his own history and choices. In an instant, the past he tried to escape comes rushing back, challenging the life he has built. Emily, in turn, is disoriented by Michael's return. She is no longer the young woman he left behind. Now, she is a woman who has fought against all odds to raise her children. The reunion brings complicated feelings to the surface, and she finds herself facing the dilemma of whether to allow Michael back into their lives. Meanwhile, Jessica, ever protective, fears that Michael's presence could bring more pain to her friend and her children. Tension rises as Michael tries to redeem himself and win Emily's heart again. He wants to be part of his children's lives, but the path is filled with obstacles, including the resentment Emily harbors for his abandonment and the need to prove to herself that she can protect her family at all costs. Michael's emotional struggle, marked by regret and the quest for redemption, intertwines with Emily's vibrant story, who, despite her scars, refuses to be defined by her past. At the heart of this narrative, what truly matters is the connection between parents and children, the strength of friendships, and the power of love that can heal deep wounds. Michael and Emily's journey is a reflection on second chances and the importance of facing past mistakes to find a new beginning, and so they find themselves on a path filled with emotions, revelations, and the hope for a future where love and family can prevail. Michael Bennett's return to Vermont was not just a trip back to his roots, but also a plunge into a sea of emotions he did not expect to face. At first, the town seemed familiar, but soon revealed itself to be a place filled with memories he was trying to forget. Coming across the school where Emily taught, a wave of nostalgia and regret enveloped him. He remembered the moments they shared, the laughter and the dreams they had together. But all of that now felt distant, like a faded photograph. Emily, upon seeing him again, felt her heart race, but not for romantic reasons. What she felt was a mix of anger and pain. That man who once promised to stand by her had left her helpless in one of the most difficult moments of her life. The resentment she held back prevented her from feeling any joy at the reunion. Determined to protect her children, she ignored him at the meeting, but his presence was undeniable. The similarities between him and the children haunted her, reminding her of what could have been. Jessica, Emily's best friend, noticed the tension in the air. With her protective nature, she felt she needed to act. "You okay, Em? He doesn't deserve your time or attention," she said, holding her friend's hand firmly. Jessica had always been a source of strength for Emily, but now there was a growing fear in her heart. What could happen if Michael actually tried to reintegrate into Emily's and the children's lives? She didn't want her friend to get hurt again. Meanwhile, Michael found himself in an emotional labyrinth. He had returned to Vermont hoping to resolve the crisis in the family business, but Emily's presence distracted him. He was determined to redeem himself, but he didn't know how. The weight of regret accompanied him, and the idea of being a father to her children seemed like an impossible mission. How could he approach children he didn't even know? Insecurity grew within him, and he began to question if he was worthy of a second chance. In the days that followed, the challenge of reconnecting with Emily became a daily battle. Michael tried to get closer, but each time he attempted to start a conversation, she shut down. He felt like an intruder in her new life. The words he wanted to say seemed to get lost in his throat, suffocated by the fear of rejection. The idea that he could be a father to those 4 children tormented him. He wondered if it was fair to them and to Emily, if he was really ready to commit again. In the meantime, the children were also struggling with Michael's presence. Jack, the oldest, noticed the tension between his mother and the man who was in fact his father. He felt torn, wanting to understand who this man was that seemed to have a connection with them, but also caused so much pain to his mother. Lily, with her sensitive nature, sensed Emily's sadness and tried to comfort her, but she didn't fully understand what was happening. Ethan and Chloe, still very young, felt the change in the atmosphere, but couldn't comprehend it. One particularly difficult night, after a day filled with conflicting emotions, Emily decided to talk to Jessica. "I don't know what to do, Jess. Part of me wants Michael to stay away, but another part, well, he's their father. How can I ignore that?" Emily's voice trembled and Jessica listened attentively. "You need to think about yourself and the kids. Don't forget what he did. What matters now is what you and the boys need," Jessica replied, her concern evident. Jessica's response left Emily in a state of reflection. She knew she needed to protect her children, but she also didn't want to be unfair. Deep down, there was an internal battle. What did it really mean to give a second chance? And what if he had changed? The dilemma consumed her, and she realized she needed time to process it all. Meanwhile, Michael felt increasingly isolated. He started attending school, volunteering for extracurricular activities, hoping to get closer to his children. However, every smile or look of disdain from Emily made him feel smaller. He was determined to fight, but with each step, the fear of failing again paralyzed him. It was a constant struggle between the desire to make things right and the weight of the past that still followed him. As days went by, the tension increased. The unspoken words, repressed feelings, and insecurities of both began to create an even deeper chasm between them. Michael's struggle to redeem himself and Emily's fight to protect her family were about to collide explosively. Their journey, filled with emotional and physical challenges, would force them to confront their deepest fears and question whether love could truly overcome the past. Before we continue with this gripping story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories. And let us know which city you are watching this video from in the comments. The tension in Michael and Emily's lives reached a critical point. After weeks of trying to connect with the family, Michael began to feel that each gesture was in vain. He got involved in school activities, but Emily's coldness left him disheartened. The children, who seemed eager to know him, were also confused. Jack, in particular, felt torn. He admired his father on one hand, but couldn't ignore the pain that his presence caused his mother. One afternoon during a school event, Michael finally managed to get a moment alone with Jack. He crouched down beside the boy, trying to convey sincerity in his gaze. "Hey Jack, do you want to show me how you play soccer? I'd love to learn from you," he asked, trying to break the ice. Jack hesitated, but curiosity won. "All right, but only if you promise you won't leave again," he replied, locking eyes with Michael. That simple phrase cut Michael's heart, reminding him of the pain he had caused. Meanwhile, Emily watched from afar, her heart tightening at the sight of her son approaching his father. The scene left her conflicted. She wanted Jack to have a relationship with Michael, but she also feared that it meant reopening a wound that would never heal. Jessica, beside her, sensed her friend's internal struggle. "You need to be honest with him, Em. You can't just leave things like this without explanations," Jessica advised. But the thought of having that conversation was terrifying. How could she explain to Jack the complexity of her emotions without creating more confusion? The pressure was mounting. Michael felt encouraged by the interaction with Jack, but at the same time, a wave of insecurity washed over him. He knew he was fighting against a haunting past, and each step forward seemed to be followed by a retreat. He tried to open up to Emily in a moment of vulnerability. "I know I messed up, Emily. I just want to do the right things now. I can't take away what happened, but I want to be here for them, for you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. But the words were not well received. Emily just shook her head, unable to look into his eyes. That same night, Michael's frustration culminated. He decided to meet with childhood friends, people who knew his story. However, the meeting did not bring the relief he expected. The friends, although supportive, could not understand the weight Michael carried. One of them, Tom, exclaimed, "Why don't you just forget this story and move on? You're holding on to something that's not going to be the way it was again." That phrase cut like a knife. Michael felt even more lost, questioning whether he was doing the right thing by trying to reintegrate into Emily and the children's lives. The next day, Emily decided she needed a break. She took the children for a walk in the park, seeking clarity amid the emotional chaos. Jack, still reflecting on his conversation with Michael, asked his mother, "Mom, do you hate Dad?" The question left her speechless. She looked at her son, feeling the weight of his expectation. "No, Jack, I don't hate him, but he hurt us, and that's hard to forget," she replied, her voice trembling. The sincerity of that response surprised her, and for the first time she realized she needed to be honest with herself and the children. Meanwhile, the pressure on Michael was mounting. He began receiving text messages from his family, inquiring about the farm's business, but his mind was elsewhere. He felt torn between the desire to fix his past and the responsibility of taking care of the present. His heart weighed heavy with the thought that even if he managed to regain Emily's trust, the wound he had caused might never fully heal. Each interaction with the children became a new battle, and the possibility of failing once again terrified him. Weeks passed, and the atmosphere between Michael and Emily became unbearable. A new opportunity arose when the school organized a family event, and Michael decided it was time to speak up. He prepared a speech, thinking about how he could open up to everyone. But at the moment he took the microphone, his voice faltered. The fear of rejection paralyzed him. The audience, made up of parents and children, looked at him with anticipation, but instead of words of redemption, what came out of his mouth was a confused and hesitant apology. The silence in the room was deafening. Emily, sitting in the front row, felt her heart race. Shame and frustration consumed her. She knew Michael was trying, but the way he failed to express his feelings once again left her devastated. The moment became a reflection of both their internal struggles, the battle between the desire to fix things and the fear of failing. And as tears streamed down Emily's face, Michael realized that this was the hardest choice he had ever faced: to fight for an uncertain future, or to step back and accept what the past had in store for him. The tense atmosphere at the school was palpable. Michael, standing behind the microphone, felt the weight of expectation on his shoulders. He had prepared for this moment, but as he looked at the audience, fear took over. He noticed the curious gazes of the children, Emily's concern, and the uncertainty on the faces of the other parents. What should have been an opportunity for redemption was turning into yet another failure. As his hesitant words echoed in the auditorium, Michael felt he was losing the chance to regain Emily's trust and that of the children. What was meant to be an apology transformed into a confused confession. He failed to convey what he truly felt, and in the end, only an awkward silence surrounded him. Emily, in the front row, felt a lump in her throat. Tears began to slip down her face. The frustration and pain were unbearable. She wanted Michael to be there, but his words only seemed to confirm that he still wasn't ready for the responsibility his presence demanded. However, what happened next would change everything. One of the teachers, noticing the tension in the room, decided to intervene. With a gentle look, she approached Michael and, amid the silence, said that the truth is that we all make mistakes, Michael. What matters is acknowledging those mistakes and learning from them. Sometimes vulnerability is the greatest strength we can show. Her words resonated in the hearts of everyone present. The atmosphere, which had been heavy, began to shift. The children, who had been silent until then, began to murmur among themselves, and the judgmental climate dissolved. Michael, touched by the intervention, took a deep breath. He realized he wasn't alone in this struggle. The pressure he felt didn't come only from within but from everyone around him. He remembered what truly mattered: the connection with his children and the need to win Emily back. With renewed determination, he straightened up and, with a firmer voice, decided to continue. "It's true I made mistakes, and that's why I'm here. I want to be a better father. I want to learn and grow. I don't expect everything to be okay immediately, but I'm willing to try." The audience began to respond. Some children nodded in understanding, and even some adults seemed more receptive. Emily, though still vulnerable, began to sense that perhaps there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Michael's speech wasn't perfect, but it was genuine. She felt a change in the air, as if the tension was starting to dissipate. But the real turning point came when Jack, who had remained silent until that moment, raised his hand. The gesture surprised everyone. "Daddy, I just want you to be my friend. You don't have to be afraid of making mistakes," the boy said, his voice full of innocence and hope. That phrase touched not only Michael, but everyone present. Jack's unconditional love was a powerful reminder that even in the most complicated situations, the desire for connection and understanding can prevail. Michael's heart filled with gratitude. He looked at Jack, and the small raised hand represented a bridge between them. He realized that true change wasn't just about his ability to redeem himself, but his willingness to listen and learn from those around him. From that moment on, he could no longer allow himself to be consumed by fear. He needed to be the father Jack deserved, and more importantly, he needed to be a man who could forgive himself. Emily, beside Jack, saw a new light in Michael's eyes. She began to understand that the healing journey wouldn't be easy, but it could be possible. Jack's love and innocence were a call for her to open up as well, not just to Michael, but to the idea that life, with all its complexities, could still offer new opportunities. That day, Michael not only faced his past, but also took the first step toward an uncertain but promising future. He learned that vulnerability was, in fact, a strength, and that by opening up to his own pain and the pain of others, he could begin to build bridges where there had once been walls. And as the audience applauded, Michael felt that, for the first time in a long time, the weight on his heart was beginning to dissipate. It was a new beginning, filled with challenges but also with hope. After that decisive moment in the auditorium, Michael's life began to change, even if subtly. He felt a lightness he hadn't experienced in a long time. The applause of the audience still echoed in his mind, but now it was accompanied by a renewed hope. He realized that he had taken the first step to reconnect not only with Jack, but also with Emily and himself. However, this new path would not be easy. In the days that followed, Michael struggled to maintain the momentum from his presentation. He began to spend more time with Jack, helping him with homework and playing together in the park. These simple moments brought joy, but also internal pressure. He didn't want to fail again. Every laugh from Jack made him feel lighter, but every mistake or misunderstanding made him question whether he could truly be the father his son deserved. Emily, for her part, watched from a distance. She wanted to believe in Michael's change, but the scars of the past still hurt. At night, when Jack went to bed, she would sit in the living room and reflect on everything that had happened. Michael's speech touched her, but she couldn't ignore the unfulfilled promises of the past. One of those nights, while looking out the window, she decided she needed to talk to Michael, but she didn't know where to begin. The vulnerability he had shown inspired her, but it also made her nervous. One morning, while Michael was in the kitchen making coffee, he decided it would be a different day. He would take the opportunity to open up to Emily. When she entered the room, he took a deep breath. "We need to talk," he said, with a tone stronger than he felt. Emily looked at him, surprised. "About what?" The defensiveness in her voice was evident, but Michael realized that this was a chance to connect. He hesitated, but the memory of Jack's gaze encouraged him. "About us, about what happened. I want to be honest, and I don't want to hide anything anymore." The conversation was not easy. As Michael spoke about his fears and insecurities, Emily listened attentively. She realized that despite his failures, he was genuinely trying to change. But at the same time, she couldn't forget the difficult moments they had shared. "I want to believe that you are changing, but how can I be sure?" she questioned, pain evident in her voice. Michael felt frustrated, but he knew this was reality. He couldn't expect everything to be resolved overnight. "I know it will take time to rebuild trust, but I'm here, willing to try, and I don't want you to feel alone in this. We can do this together." What Michael did not realize was that, while he was trying to be the father and partner everyone deserved, the shadows of the past still loomed over him. In moments of solitude, he struggled with doubt. Would he really be able to do it? And what if he failed again? The fear of disappointing Jack and Emily consumed him, but he knew he had to confront these feelings to move forward. One afternoon, while walking with Jack, he noticed that the little boy was quieter than usual. "Is everything okay, son?" he asked, concerned. Jack looked down before responding. "Daddy, I just wish you wouldn't be sad again. I really like it when you smile." The child's innocence hit Michael like a blow. He knelt down and hugged Jack, feeling a mixture of love and pain. "I promise I'll try to be happy and make you happy too." However, life was not just made up of sweet moments. A week later, Michael received a call from his old job. They were offering a new opportunity, but that meant returning to a routine he had left behind. a routine that took him away from home and, consequently, from Jack and Emily. He hesitated, thinking about how this would affect his new family dynamic. That night, while discussing the proposal with Emily, he realized that the conversation they had had weeks ago had not dissipated. "I don't want you to feel pressured to go back to your old job if it means losing what we're trying to build," she said, her concern evident. Michael fell silent, struggling against the temptation to accept the offer. The desire for financial stability weighed on his mind, but he also knew that his priority was family. He decided he needed more time to think. As he lay down, he reflected on his journey so far and how, even in the face of new challenges, he could not let fear paralyze him. The love he felt for Jack and Emily was a powerful fuel, and he was determined to use that strength to keep fighting. Michael knew that changes would not happen overnight and that new obstacles would always arise. But for the first time, he felt ready to face them, one step at a time, with the hope that, with honesty and love, he could build a better future for everyone. Michael found himself at a turning point in his life. After the speech he had given, he was more aware of his emotions and how they affected his family. The lightness he felt was new, but it also carried a weight. He was determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past. The transformation would not come easily, but he was willing to try. In the days that followed, he began to cherish every moment with Jack. Playtime in the park had become a routine, and Michael felt the bond between father and son growing. However, with each laugh from Jack, a shadow of doubt loomed over him. Could he really be the father his son deserved? The pressure was palpable, and he constantly questioned himself. Every small disagreement with Jack left him restless, as if he were one step away from crumbling. Meanwhile, Emily observed this transformation from afar. She wanted to believe that Michael was changing, but she couldn't forget the difficult moments they had shared. The emotional scars ran deep, and she wondered if she could open her heart again. The conversation they had about what happened between them still echoed in her mind. She wanted to trust him, but how could she be sure he wouldn't fail again? One morning, while Michael was making coffee, the idea of having an honest conversation with Emily became unavoidable. He knew he needed to be truthful, not only about his intentions but also about his fears. When he called Emily for a chat, she was surprised, but also somewhat skeptical. He began to share his insecurities and his determination to be a present father. Emily listened, but her questions were tough. "How can I be sure you're really changing?" The pain in her voice was clear, and Michael felt an internal frustration. But he knew this was the truth. He couldn't expect everything to resolve overnight. As the weeks passed, Michael realized that his struggle was not only against external expectations, but also against his own uncertainties. One day, while walking with Jack, the little boy surprised him with a question that made him stop. "Dad, are you going to be sad again?" The innocence in Jack's voice pierced Michael's heart. He knelt down and hugged him, promising he would do his best to be happy and make his son happy. But deep down he knew this was a difficult promise to keep. Life, however, was not just made up of sweet moments. A week later, Michael received a call from his old job offering a new opportunity. The thought of returning to that routine haunted him. He had left that world behind, but now he found himself in a dilemma. Accepting the offer would mean sacrificing the time he was dedicating to Jack and Emily. When he discussed the proposal with Emily, she expressed her concerns about the decision, reminding him of everything they had built together. Michael's internal struggle intensified. At night, as he lay down, Michael reflected on his journey. He realized that success was not just about having a stable job or making money, but about building a home where love and trust reigned. He wanted to be a man his children admired, not for his material achievements, but for his ability to love and sacrifice. Yet the fear of failing still consumed him. He knew that change wouldn't happen overnight, and that new challenges would always arise. But for the first time, Michael felt ready to face them. He decided that regardless of the job offer, his main focus would be his family. He wanted to be the father Jack deserved and the partner Emily desired. What Michael didn't realize, as he struggled with his insecurities, was that this journey of overcoming was making him stronger. He was learning to trust himself and accept Emily's support, even if it meant facing his own demons. This new perspective helped him rebuild his life, and he began to apply the lessons he learned along the way. The friendship that started to blossom between him and Emily, based on trust and honesty, was a catalyst in his transformation. Michael was finally allowing himself to move forward, leaving the shadows of the past behind. And as he progressed, he realized that love, vulnerability, and the willingness to learn were the true keys to success. Michael was not only rediscovering himself, but also creating a better future for his family, one step at a time. The morning was cold and cloudy, and Michael felt restless. He had received the job offer a week earlier, and with each passing minute, his mind oscillated between the temptation of material success and the desire to be present for Jack and Emily. The weight of that decision followed him like a shadow, and he knew he could no longer postpone the conversation he needed to have with Emily. While Jack played in the yard, Michael decided it was time to be honest. He called Emily into the living room, and his heart raced. What he had to say could change everything. As they sat down, he felt the tension in the air. Emily looked at him, her eyes reflecting a mix of hope and distrust. Michael began, controlling his trembling voice. "I received a job offer. It's a great opportunity, but I don't want to put that above us, above our family. I know I need to be a better father, and I'm trying, but this offer is making me think about everything I left behind." Emily listened in silence, and he saw the conflict in her eyes. "Do you really think you can change, Michael? That you can be the man and father you always promised to be?" The frustration in her voice was palpable, and he knew he had to be sincere. "I don't know if I can guarantee that I'll change forever, but I want to try. I want Jack to have a present father. I want to build a future with you, but I don't know how to balance it all," he confessed, the vulnerability in his words echoing in the room. She hesitated, and the silence stretched between them like a thin thread. Michael felt the pressure rising. With each passing second, the reality of his decision became more intense. He knew he needed to be firm, but at the same time it meant confronting his deepest fears. "You can't just go back to what it was before, Michael. You can't let work take over your life again. We need you here with us. Jack needs you," Emily said, the emotion in her voice making his heart tighten. "I'm not going to let that happen," he assured, determination growing within him. "I want to be the father Jack deserves. I don't want him to have to wonder if I'm going to be sad again. I want him to know that I will always be here." Michael stood up, walked to the window, and watched Jack, who was now playing carefree. His son's smile was everything he wanted to preserve. He turned to Emily, his eyes filled with fervor. "I don't want you to have doubts about me. I want you to know that I'm here to make this work, no matter what happens." Emily looked at him intently, and he could see the walls she had built starting to crumble. "So what are you going to do? Are you going to accept the job and leave all of this behind?" "No," Michael replied, feeling a wave of clarity. "I can't. What I need is a purpose greater than just a job. I want to be a present father, a partner you can trust. That's what really matters to me." The atmosphere between them began to change. The tension that had once separated them seemed to dissipate, and for a moment everything they had experienced together seemed to converge into one point. Michael realized he was facing his biggest challenge, the choice between material success and the values that truly mattered. "If I accept that offer, I'm going to lose myself again, and I can't do that to you and Jack. I choose you," he said, his voice firm. "I want to build a life by your side, Emily, and that means letting go of some things." Tears began to slide down Emily's face, and Michael stepped closer to her. He embraced her, feeling the warmth of her presence. "I know it won't be easy, but I want us to face this together. I'm ready to fight for our family." In that moment, their friendship solidified. Michael realized that even amid chaos, there was a path forward. He had learned that true wealth was not in possessions, but in the love and trust he could rebuild. And so, amid the storm of emotions, Michael finally found his inner strength. He had chosen love, vulnerability, and the determination to be a better father and partner. And as he looked at Jack playing outside, he knew he was on the right path. He was ready to face the challenges that would still come, but now he wouldn't be alone. The fresh start lay before them, and together they could transform their lives. After the intense conversation, the air in the room felt lighter. Michael and Emily stepped back a bit, but the connection between them had strengthened. Michael took a deep breath, feeling that he had made the right choice. He looked into Emily's eyes and saw a mix of relief and hope. In the days that followed, life in their home began to change. Michael decided he would decline the job offer. He knew he couldn't commit to something that threatened the family bonds he was trying to rebuild. The decision brought a sense of peace, but also a new challenge, finding ways to support the family without distancing himself from them. Throughout the week, Michael began to explore new opportunities. He dedicated himself to smaller projects that allowed for flexibility and kept him closer to home. He remembered his skills, and started offering consulting services in his area of expertise. The work was rewarding, and he felt more connected to his family. Jack, for his part, seemed to notice the change in his father. He began to run to Michael when he came home from school, eager to share his daily adventures. Michael would sit on the living room floor, listening attentively to his son's stories, laughing and asking questions. Seeing Jack's smile illuminated his heart and reminded him of why he had made this choice. One afternoon, while they prepared a snack together, Jack turned to Michael and, with a sparkle in his eyes, said, "Dad, you're always here now." "I like that." Michael smiled, feeling emotional. "I like it too, son. I will always be here for you," he promised sincerely. These little interactions reinforced the idea that his presence was the best gift he could offer. Emily watched all of this with a smile on her face. She began to feel that the trust she had lost was slowly being restored. Each day, Michael was more present, actively participating in the family routine. They started cooking together, taking walks in the park, and even planning small family trips. These simple experiences brought a new shine to their relationship. One night, as they were getting ready for bed, Emily turned to Michael and said, "I see how hard you're trying. I'm so proud of you." He smiled, feeling warmth in his heart. "I just want you to know that I'm here to stay. I'm learning to be the man that you and Jack deserve." That night, as Michael lay down, he reflected on how life had changed. There was a time when he felt lost, consumed by work pressure and the need to prove his worth. Now, he understood that true success lay in the connections he cultivated with his family. He didn't need a prestigious position or a high salary to feel fulfilled. Weeks passed and the routine adjusted. Michael felt more balanced, and conversations with Emily flowed more easily. They discussed plans, dreams, and even concerns. This new openness brought a renewed sense of partnership, and they supported each other in their journeys. One day, while the family was gathered in the living room, Jack started playing hide-and-seek. The joy in the house was palpable. When Jack hid behind the sofa, Michael and Emily exchanged a knowing glance, laughing at their son's innocence. Michael remarked that Jack had hidden well, making a funny face. Emily laughed and replied that he would need to improve if he wanted to catch them. These simple moments, filled with laughter and play, were the true essence of what Michael sought. He remembered how it had all begun, and how he had almost lost it. The weight of the decision he had made now transformed into lightness, and he knew he was on the right path. Michael realized that the journey was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, but he felt prepared to face them, not alone, but alongside Emily and Jack. Their love was the anchor that kept him steady amidst the storm, and now he was certain that together they could overcome any obstacle. Michael watched the transformation in his life with gratitude. He had stepped away from the path that once consumed him, trading the pressure of work for valuable moments with his family. Jack's laughter and the knowing glances with Emily had become the new fuel for his life. He had not only turned down a job offer, but had also embraced the opportunity to be a present father and husband. This new beginning offered him a fresh perspective on what truly mattered. One day, while helping Jack put together a puzzle, Michael realized that this was the true wealth he had always sought. The little things, the moments of connection. The sparkle in his son's eyes and Emily's smile were far more valuable than any promotion or salary bonus. He reflected on his achievements and the changes that had occurred within him. The man who once felt lost was now in tune with his emotions and his family. He had become an example of personal overcoming, learning to value presence and love above all. However, Michael's life was not without challenges. Not long after, he received an unexpected call from a former colleague. The man, who had accepted the job offer Michael had turned down, was in trouble. The company was facing financial difficulties, and his former boss had been fired. This news hit Michael like a bolt of lightning. He knew that in the blink of an eye it could have been him in that vulnerable position. That night, while talking to Emily, Michael decided he needed to help his former colleague. He didn't want the story of his life to be marked only by his choice, but by actions that reflected true character. In the following days, Michael began to use his skills to offer consulting to that company. He worked tirelessly to restructure processes and bring new ideas to the table. The effort began to bear fruit, and the company started to recover. Michael felt he was doing the right thing, not just for his former colleague, but for all the employees who depended on the company. It was his way of getting back at the pressure work had caused him, transforming it into an act of compassion and solidarity. He realized he could turn a negative experience into something positive, and that was his true revenge against the past. The impact of this decision did not go unnoticed. Jack and Emily noticed the change in Michael's energy. He was vibrant, full of purpose. One night while the three were together, Jack looked at Michael and said he was a hero. His son's words deeply touched Michael's heart. He understood that by helping others, he was also helping himself. The journey Michael faced transformed him. He learned that true success is not measured by titles or money, but by the relationships built and the ability to make a difference in people's lives. This final reflection brought a new wisdom. Life is made of choices, and each choice has the power to change not only one's own destiny, but also that of others around us. Now, he felt empowered and ready for new challenges. Michael's story shows that new beginnings are possible and that it is always time to learn and grow. And you, have you taken a moment to reflect on your own choices? Share your experiences in the comments. Together, we can inspire more people to embrace change and build meaningful connections. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart and help us learn from life. The time to act is now.